We all live in a reality that we've created. We all live in a reality that we've built. We all live in a reality that we look at on a day to day basis, thinking, hey, this is what's real and this is what's not real. The hard part is that current frame, that current idea, that current thought of reality might not actually be 100% true. Now, what I'm talking about is when you're dealing with a toxic relationship, you're normally looking at the reality from a certain lens, from a certain viewpoint. Now, once you consider that the reality that you look at in a toxic relationship, think of it as like a box. Think of it as a frame of your reality. And all you can see inside that box is the things that have been pressed upon you. Sometimes these have been rules that the toxic person that he put on you, saying you can or you can't do this. Sometimes it's regulations of like, this is how you have to look. This is how you have to be. This is how you have to act. Sometimes it's different laws of like, this is what has to happen. But ultimately, one of the biggest things that leaves you trapped in the frame of your reality, leaves you trapped in a box, is the stories you tell yourself. Sometimes those stories have been placed upon you from other people. Sometimes they've been placed upon you from you growing up, from your parents, from relationships, from religion, from education, from previous partners. All different things happen to be able to put different stories on you. But what you are is you're made up of all the stories that you believe and the stories that you tell yourself on a day to day basis. What I have you understand is first take a moment and just stop and kind of view your situation from the outside as best you can. Because if you can start to see that you're actually stuck in a certain frame, in a certain box of your current reality. Now, what actually breaks you out of the box? How do you actually move out of the reality that you're currently in? Part of it is getting very, very clear on the facts of the situation. What has actually been demonstrated on a day to day basis? How did he actually show up in a positive or negative way? What was actually shown in the relationship? And you start to actually break some of the pieces down. This is where it gets difficult because you start to see, wait a second, some of these facts don't tend to line up with the story I've been telling myself. Some of these facts don't line up with that he said that he loved me, but then it doesn't show that he actually cared. He said that he was going to show up for the kids, and then he never did. But in your mind, you want to justify it. Well, he's having a hard day. Well, it's just bad communication. He's just struggling. He's emotionally immature. All these different pieces that you put on your own life that just become different stories. Different things that you believe, thinking, well, this must be true because the alternate reality doesn't feel like it would be easy to have it be true. Be difficult, be a struggle. All I want you to first understand is currently you're in a certain frame of reality, and that frame is built up of rules and regulations that have been placed upon you and laws that you've created and that you've put into your life based on the stories that you have in your own life. The stories you tell yourself, the stories that have been impressed upon you. That is the current frame, okay? That's the first piece, is just understanding that there is a frame, there is a box that you have boxed yourself into. Then understanding the facts. The facts are the only thing that's going to set you free. So it breaks you out of the trauma bond, what gets rid of the rumination, what helps move you forward is just the facts. What has actually been demonstrated? When you start to see the facts of it, you're like, wait a second, this story that I believe that holds up this one side of the box of my reality actually doesn't make sense because the facts actually disprove it, and it starts to slowly break free. It starts to break free, and you're like, wait a second, this isn't true. And we move into a section of saying, hey, this is not the reality that I actually want to be in. This is not the reality that I actually want to have. And we start to move into this place of struggle. And when you start to struggle with it, you start to struggle with this current reality of like, wait a second, do I actually want to believe the facts that are there? Because the story I've been telling myself is that we're in a committed relationship, but he keeps cheating on me. The story I'm telling myself is that he loves me, but he keeps demonstrating the exact opposite. The story I'm telling myself is a whole nother piece. And this piece produces a struggle of radical acceptance. Like this whole piece is trying to have you understand, hey, your reality, the current thing that you've been looking at and viewing for a long period of time might not be true. This is one of the hardest things for people to accept when they've been with a toxic person is radical acceptance, accepting the fact that this person didn't care, accepting the fact that this person didn't show and demonstrate love, accepting the fact that this person said one thing and then they did the other. And the cognitive dissonance makes it so difficult to be able to work through that, to be able to understand, to be able to see, hey, how do I actually see the truth? We have to deal with just the facts. What are the facts of the situation? So first, you're going to stop. You're going to be like, wait a second. My current frame, my current reality might not be real. Okay. Once you stop, then you start to be like, okay, I need to look. What are the actual facts? I need to actually see these are the facts that are going on in my life. These are the facts of the relationship that I do not want to admit to. But then you start to move into struggling with it, of where you're going back and forth. You're like, I don't want to believe this, but I see the truth based on the facts of the situation. Okay. Then the whole point after this is then we have to actually make a move. It's not enough for you to just listen to this live, or you just work through this aspect of, hey, I don't want to believe that my reality is actually what it is. I don't want to believe that he didn't care. We then have to make a decision. What are you going to do about it? Because you could look at your life and we keep pretending that it's working. We keep pretending that it's fixed. We can keep hiding and sedating from it. But at the end of the day, you have to come to the reality that the facts do not match up to the story you're telling yourself. They don't match up. So then what are you going to do about it? How are you going to move forward? If he tells me he loves me, but then looks at porn and cheated because I woke up to his cheating ways and his lies, he abuses me and calls me every name under the sun, 100%. It's going to try to turn it on you and make you feel bad, because he doesn't want to break out of his reality. He wants to stay nice and stuck in his reality. And so when you start to break out of the current frame that you've been put in by the stories you believe, to start to understand the facts, radically accept the things that have been happening, you start to struggle with, hey, this conflicts with the story I've been telling myself. Then you're moved to a place of having action. What are you actually going to do? Like, what are you going to do now as you realize that you're stuck in a box, that the facts are the only thing that's going to set you free? And then ultimately, once you get free, then what do? How do you continue moving forward? I was so weak and depressed and sad when I think I lost it all during my divorce custody in court with my ex-husband. A friend recommended expert in forensic evidence. He deals in legal paperwork. Thank you for sharing your content. I've set some hard boundaries. And 100%. Like, we're trying to be able to help people, like, set up boundaries and set up different aspects so that they get to a place. I'm going no contact. Yeah, 100%. So they get to a place where they can go no contact and they're able to continue to move forward and grow and thrive and develop into who you're actually called to be. When he cheats, he thinks it's my fault. 100%. Any weak ass man out there that cheats is always going to try to blame it on someone else, because he can't take accountability for the own shit that he's created. Let's put it in that perspective. Let's bring the same illustration over to that perspective, okay? He is in a box of his own reality made up of his stories, his laws, his rules, his regulations that say, hey, I cannot be responsible for cheating, so therefore it's someone else's fault. I cannot be responsible for being abusive, so therefore it's someone else's fault. He's not willing to allow that into his reality. And the reason why is he's not willing to actually address the facts. He cheated on you, right? He's not willing to address that as it being truth, because he's unwilling to see the actual facts of the situation. This is the hard part. I have a lot of people that like message me or DM me or email, and they're like, how do I get mine to wake up? How do I get them to understand they're a narcissist? How do I get them to see this? How do I get all this kind of stuff? And I'm like, you can't if there's no aspect of them being willing to understand and listen to the facts in general. Like, if you're arguing about like basic stuff and he's not willing to even admit the truth or admit that he's wrong or see that there's a different version of what's actually happening, well, not just his version of like, oh, this is what's happening. Like, no, if he's unwilling to see that, you cannot bring up narcissism. It's only going to be thrown back in your face. It's only going to be put more into an abusive way. It's only going to be projected back onto you. Because if that person is not willing to currently see that they are stuck in a box, in a current frame of reality, nothing will change. The same reason why you will not change if you're stuck in the healing.